Also da seine da jeden was eine na Reis wie der Loschna Murgo befür Eva Machere Masacha Basel was ihm das in ganzen nicht der ist. Da fahren sie nicht auch in Masacha Basel mit alle Sachen, das haben Masach schon Dimi. Aber ich mal sehen, nach dem Massim, wenn wir mit mir und sie haben die Guni, was sie haben dort gesungen, bei Maser und Beschivia. Und sie haben zwischen sich den Menagnim, sollen sich zusammenreden, den Menagnim, und singen auf ehrlichen Lieden. Wo sagen sie da? Nu?
A happy Chodesh Adar. The words to the song were Russian, and they mean water will not drown us, fire will not burn us. Water will not drown us, fire will not burn us. The Rebbe asked the Russians in the crowd who had just come out of the Soviet Union to sing a song that they used to sing when they were behind the Iron Curtain, and that's the song they chose. That's the song they chose to share. Of course, the actual lyrics went on for about 2.5 seconds, and then it was just yeah. No. Very exciting, very good. A good Chodesh, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night pre-Shabbos talk. The Gemara, of course, tells us Misha nichnas Adar marbim besimcha. When Adar comes, we are obligated to increase our simcha. That means this evening, the history stops. The doors of the month of Adar have arrived, have opened, and now everything's great. It's a mitzvah to rejoice all through the month of Adar every single day and to be happy and of a glad heart. And, we've had enough tzaras this year, enough stress. Now we can make a U-turn and increase the happiness, fill our hearts and our homes with joy. Every year, obviously, this is an important message when Adar comes, but this year it's 7 times over important because these crazy days, this month of Adar concludes a full year of the craziest time that we've ever known. And so these days, the optimistic view is not a luxury that you have, that you work on once you've solved all your other problems. These days, optimism it's your whole life. It's how you survive. A positive outlook, happiness creates success, creates, it gives you the energy to fulfill your dreams, your wishes. It helps you to overcome all the challenges that life throws your way. On the other hand, the opposite of happiness really weakens a person. It obscures your talents. It leaves a person feeling irrelevant, God forbid. There's a great analogy that's told about the importance of simcha, the importance of a good outlook. Once upon a time, there was a guy called, we'll call him Tevye, because it's appropriate for Adar. He was an important man in his community, tall, broad shoulders. He struck an imposing image. And although he was not a scholar, his bearing made him an important person. His booming voice gave him the final word in every discussion. And pretty soon he became the leader of the community. And connections with this guy, Tevye, was very important, you know. If there was ever a discussion, a debate between the members of the community, he was the one that they would go to work it out. He was the man. One time, two wealthy people have an argument with each other. They come to Tevye to judge, and he decides. The one who lost the court case was very offended, was very hurt, and he decided that he's going to get even. He goes to the king or the governor or whoever, and he reports on the fact that the Jewish community has this illegal court. And Tevye is the main man. The governor is so upset. Now he's so offended. Somebody's taking charge in his city without his permission. He says, that's it. It's treason. And he has to be arrested, and he has to be executed for treason. Tevye hears about this, and he runs for the hills. Around the city is a river, and he comes to the river, and unfortunately, although he's very big and imposing and impressive and so on, he cannot swim. Tevye cannot swim. So he's running up and down the shore trying to find a path across the river. He cannot. Soon he sees a little sailor, and he says to the little sailor, please help me across the river. I have to get to the other side. And the young sailor sees the important man, Tevye, standing and asking for his help, and he gets so excited at the opportunity to help such an important person. He grabs him by the neck with one hand, and by the other hand, he's swimming with all his might across the river. And as they're reaching the opposite bank, Tevye says to him, "Oy, when I solve my issues, when I get back to my glory, boy, oh boy, am I going to repay you." And the sailor, as he's struggling for air, swimming across the river to the other side, he says, "I don't understand. Why are you down from your glory? Why do you have to get back up?" He says, "Because the king decreed that I am a rebel and that I'm deserving of being executed." When he hears this, the sailor lets go, and Tevye can't swim. The people of the town hear about the story, and they say to the sailor, "Why did you do that?" He said, "I didn't do that. I didn't do that. As long as I thought that there was something to be gained by helping the most important man in town, I was so thrilled and excited. The excitement, the adrenaline of being able to help this important man filled me with energy. But when I realized that this is not an important man, this is just the average run-of-the-mill death row candidate, I went back, my adrenaline faded, and I went back to my regular strength. I'm not strong enough to schlep a person twice my size. I'm not strong enough to carry a person on my back across a river, not on a normal day. So when I was enthused, I had extra strength. But when I was just average, I couldn't do it." The lesson is obvious. Joy, enthusiasm, energy, and all that stuff, it's in our heads. It's all taking place in our minds. But realistically, in our lives today, where are we finding the simcha? Where are we finding the joy? Where's the volume button that you crank up that we can all of a sudden say, Marbim b'simcha? We're increasing the joy that we feel in the month of Adar. And more so, is it even fair for Jewish law to demand something like that? How can you say, now you have to be sad? I can't snap with my left hand. Now you have to be happy. How do you turn it on and off? Happiness is something that is spontaneous. It comes out of your achievements in your life. You do something exciting, you do something successful, you're happy. If not, then if nothing happened, then it's just a regular day, then where's the happiness meant to come from? This is a question about the command to be happy in the month of Adar, but it's also a command with regard, it's also a question with regards to the general command of happiness. Rambam, in his book, his Code of Jewish Law, he tells us the following. He says to us, mitzvah, hasimcha, the joy. Can you see this? Hasimcha, the joy that a person must derive from doing good deeds and from loving Hashem, who has commanded us to practice these mitzvahs, is a supreme form of divine worship. He calls it in Hebrew, avodah gedola, a supreme form of divine worship. Anyone who refrains from expressing this joy deserves punishment, as it is written, because you have not served Hashem your God with joy and with a glad heart. So in general, there's a command. There is nowhere is there such clear language about the mitzvah for a Jew to be happy always. Rambam says, where does he learn the lesson from? There's a verse in the Chumash that says, if there comes a time when the person, God forbid, is being punished, he should realize that it's because he didn't serve Hashem with joy. In other words, Torah is telling us it's not enough that a person should serve Hashem. It's not enough that a person should, it's not enough what the person is doing. It's also important how the person is going about doing those things. And therefore, it's possible for a person to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, and still could be found lacking in his avodah because he's doing it in a tired and mundane way. So again, the question is, how can we command happiness? How do you flip the switch and the joy comes on? How do you do that? There's another important question about Rambam's teaching that we just read. Why does he call it avodah gedola? A great service, a great form of avodah. Avodah connotes hard work, you know that? When we say avodas Hashem, serving Hashem, it's like the word eved, which means servitude, slavery. It connotes hard labor. Why does Rambam describe joy as the hard work, the tremendously important hard work of being joyous in Judaism? Why doesn't he say something more positive, more optimistic, like what Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says? Mitzvah gedola liyos besimcha. It's a great mitzvah to be joyous, or he could say it's a great merit to be joyous, or it's a great spirit, it's a great level, a high level. Why does he call it avodah, something so burdensome? The Rebbe explained at one time that simcha, joy, the joyous outlook, is actually, it's a choice. Judaism and even psychology these days does not see happiness and joy as a spontaneous outcome of life's events. Joy, happiness, is a choice and a task that sits in front of each of us that we are responsible to make every single day. It doesn't matter if life is great. It doesn't matter if life is a burden. Even in those dark moments, we are obligated. It's a task, and it's sometimes very hard work to be happy, to focus on the good things in life, to focus on the light and the brilliance and the happiness. And that's why the Rambam emphasizes it's avodah gedola. It's a tremendous work. It's a great form of service. He's trying to say that simcha, joy, is work that a person has to do with himself. He has to demand it from himself. He has to accomplish it within himself. And sometimes it's going to take a lot of hard work. And that's also why davening is called avodas hatfilah, because davening is a time when a person is meant to transform themselves from a sleepy, uninspired, doubtful, shy individual to a confident, happy, and purposeful individual. And that takes work. That's why davening is called avodas hatfilah, the work of davening. And who even has to mention the work of earning a living for your family? That's also certainly a tremendous task that often is very hard work, very hard work. More specifically, joy comes from a sense of value. If a person knows that life is important and that every moment there's an important task that's waiting for you, and there are people that depend on you, then instead of sinking into frustration about what could be, a person can get busy living a productive and enthusiastic life that's built around what is. And it's important to know, the Alter Rebbe mentions in Tanya, the method of the Yetzer Hara is to emphasize the bad, to emphasize the dark, to emphasize what's missing. I don't know who named it this, but some people call it the missing tile syndrome. Everything is great, but there's one piece missing, and that's all you can see. It's the nature of the Yetzer Hara. It tries to get you down. But we have to realize that that is absolutely the product of arrogance, and that's not going to lead to a happy life. Happiness, on the other hand, it breaks through all of those barriers, all of those hang-ups, and it frees us to really be amazing, productive people. We have to remember, we are Jews. We're chosen by God himself. Our prayers, our mitzvahs, they rise up and they stand in front of God and they accomplish tremendous things for us down here. At the same time, Hashem gave us the ability and the task to influence those around us, the family that depends on us, the community that relies on us. What else do we need? What more do we need to be happy, to feel like we have a sense of purpose? Now we can understand a question about Megillas Esther in connection with Purim that's coming in the month of Adar. Let's go to the part in the Megillah that's the peak. Yeah, the decree came down from the palace. The Jewish people are going to be, they're scheduled for elimination. There's fear, there's turmoil, there's fraying nerves. And Mordechai sends a message to Queen Esther, his niece, in the palace. And he tells her the terrible story and he asks her to get involved. She sends back a message. She sends back a message that she's afraid. The queen is afraid, right? I haven't been called to the king for 30 days. I don't know what's going to happen if I walk in by myself without an invitation. Mordechai loses all respect for the Persian royalty, and he sends back a very, very sharp message to her. And he says, don't you imagine, don't think that you can escape the fate of all your Jewish brothers and sisters by hiding away in the palace. If you stay silent in this moment, Hashem is going to help the Jewish people. Hashem will find a way from somewhere else, and you and your father's household will have lost the opportunity to do something great. Then Mordechai says, and who knows if this is the reason why Hashem put you in the palace in the first place. Who knows? Very strange. Mordechai is the leader of the Jewish people. He's the prince. He's the member of the Sanhedrin, and he's the spiritual leader of the generation. He is a prophet. He should have spoken with confidence. This is the reason why God put you in the palace. What's with the question? Who knows if maybe this is possibly, it could be, maybe it isn't, but maybe it is. That's the tone of a strong leader. So at a Purim Farbrengen 1 year, the Rebbe answered this question. The Rebbe said, you have to understand, Mordechai is coming at her with guns ablazing, firing on all cylinders. He is telling it the way it is, but he's also being sensitive. Mi yoideya, you're right. You spent, I don't know how many years it was already that Esther was in the palace. You spent so many years asking the question, why is this happening to me? And Mordechai is empathizing with her. Who knows? Maybe. However, don't forget, here you have an opportunity that appears like the purpose for all of it. This is the reason you went to the palace. He's not asking, he's telling, but he's doing it in an empathetic way. When a human being goes through life, there are challenges, many challenges, difficulties, many difficulties, hurdles and obstacles and things that make us say, why me? Why is this happening to me? Can't I just wake up in the morning, have a pleasant day, do good things, be with my family, earn a living and go home? Why must it be so difficult? Why must I find myself in situations that I don't like? Says Mordechai to Esther and to all of us, stick it out, pay attention, watch the message, watch for the messaging, and you will find it. One day, your purpose will be revealed to you, and you'll be able to say, this is the reason I was sent to the palace. This is the reason I was sent to that corner of the world. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I'm going to do what I have to do. Live like a prince. Live like life matters. If somebody lives with enthusiasm over their ability to accomplish great things, they will live a magnificent life. And we'll close with the following story, is of the grandfather of one of the members of our community, Baruch Hashem, who the story takes place on in 1969. The holiday is Sukkot. There was a lady called Mrs. Gansberg. She passed away from a difficult illness. She left 5 orphans, and her husband, Rabbi Gansberg, they called him Hirschel, Tzvi Hirsch Gansberg. Tremendous chassid, a bright and brilliant and kind and joyous person. So the evening of Simchas Torah comes. It's a week after the onset of the Yom Tov. It's a week after the passing of his wife. And Hirschel, the chassid, Tzvi Hirsch Gansberg, asks his mother-in-law or his mother, I don't know which one, to dress the children in the Yom Tov clothing, because he has a tradition that every year for Simchas Torah, he visits synagogues and surrounding communities, and he helps to liven up the holiday spirit for the people who daven in those small shuls, and he helps them to dance with greater energy. Fine, he brings them the Hasidic spirit of the Yom Tov on Simchas Torah. Yeah, he knew that the elderly members of the small shul that he visited every year were waiting for him, and they were expecting him, and they relied on him. And so, despite the fact that he had suffered a terrible loss just a week before, he made the walk. He schlepped out the koyach from himself, and he did it. He took his kids with him, and they went there, and they danced with all of their might in that little shul, like they always did every year. Then, after that mission was completed, they made their way back to 770 to join the celebration. And because he was one of the people in charge of starting the songs at the Farbrengens, he was given a very important place just under the podium of the Rebbe at the Farbrengen. And so when the Rebbe finished the talk, the room is quiet, waiting for somebody to start a song. And all of a sudden, from under the podium, you hear a very weak voice start to sing. The video we saw at the beginning of the lesson. That niggin. Water won't drown us, fire won't burn us. We keep going. The Rebbe looks at him, directly at him for a minute, studies him for a minute, and then the Rebbe bursts into activity. The Rebbe jumps up to his feet, pushes the chair back behind him, and starts dancing in his place, dancing and swinging his arms and clapping. And you can imagine when the Rebbe does that, 770 explodes with energy. Some of the people who were there, they said in all the years of the Rebbe dancing Simchas Torah and Farbrengens, they had never seen such energy and such animation on the part of the Rebbe. And that's that. But the story has an epilogue. 20 years later, it was Erev Simchas Torah in the beginning of the 90s. And the office of Tzivos Hashem in Crown Heights, the telephone rings. And on the line is a Jew that says that he would like to sponsor a program for children on Simchas Torah to give them a good feeling of the holiday of Simchas Torah and to give them an opportunity to participate in the joy of the Yom Tov. And the person on the phone says, that's the office person says, that's so nice, that's so wonderful. What's your story? Where does this come from? He said, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not a Chabad Chassid, but I have a memory that never leaves me. It was 20 years ago. I was a 14-year-old boy in a small shul on East Flatbush. And this Chabadnik came in with his 5 kids to dance with the Torah with all their might. They danced. And I said to my father, this guy must be a super happy guy, like his life must just be absolutely perfect to be able to dance with so much joy and so much energy. And then my father told me the truth. Just a week ago, this man lost his wife. So I asked my father, then why is he dancing? And my father said, because today is Simchas Torah, and a chassid is happy on Simchas Torah. In a moment, the man says on the phone, I made a decision. If ever I have the means, if ever I have the funds, I'm going to make sure that other children, many Jewish children, all Jewish children, should be able to experience the joy of Simchas Torah like I did when I was that young bacher. And thank God now I'm successful and I have the means and I want to fulfill my promise. Hashem should help. We should all merit revealed joy that's the product of good events in our lives and good decisions, and especially the greatest joy of all, the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, may it be speedily in our days. And we'll close, of course, with a replay of the nigun that we started off with. Thank you. Chayla reminded me to make sure I'm sharing the sound. Good.